Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Appreciate you guys. Check out the podcast also below in the description.
All right, Middlecoff. This was one of the unexpected highlights of Week 2, the debut of Justin Herbert. And credit to you, because you said last week, forget this, I'm going with Herbert. And I said, I don't think he's ready. I watched him in college. I think he misses too many throws. I think it's too soon for this. You said, F it, go with the man. And then the game starts.
What do you think? He's not going to miss the throws in the pros? I mean, it's just part of the deal.
I was talking Hard Knocks. He couldn't get under center. His cadence was wrong. It was too emphasized for running plays or pass plays, whatever. The defense knew what was coming based on how he was. And I thought, I don't think he's ready. Well, then the game starts. I'm like, oh, Anthony Lynn. I'm impressed. Going with the
off the top rope.
Off the top rope, holding a secret. Nobody saw this coming. Middlecoff, you were right. Anthony Lynn, I never imagined. You guys are going to be boys now. And then it turned out that Tyrod was hurt. But whatever. Herbert looked really good. He looked clearly ready. Clearly, I take that take and throw it off a bridge.
He said that he found out 5 to 10 minutes before the game he was starting. Now, we'll find out more. When we're recording this, we don't know much about, and he'd been hurt all week. It's hard to hurt your pec in pregame warm-ups.
They had the third quarterback dressed.
So clearly he tweaked something. So I can only give the Chargers so much credit. They would not have done this without Tyrod Taylor. I give them no credit. They were forced into this.
Yep.
Guy, I also think they're fucking idiots when I read a quote from Anthony Lynn after the game who says, like, you now can say, listen, we're reevaluating everything moving forward. Check out the health. I'm not making any firm decisions. It's an easy one. It's a BP fastball, guy. And he says that if Tyrod Taylor's healthy, he is our quarterback. That makes me want to throw up in my mouth, spit it out, and lick it. It's that disgusting, guy. Tyrod Taylor, did you not watch? Do you know the take after Thursday night Cincinnati Bengals game and the Browns game? I was like, God, the Chargers might not be very good. And then you know what? The first half, just watching them against the Chiefs, you know what you thought? No, it's Tyrod Taylor stinks. Herbert, who's a work in progress. What are we doing, guy? It'd be one thing if Herbert was the third-round pick. I would be okay with you saying that. You just drafted him 6th overall. 6th overall. And clearly, for any human that watches the National Football League, just takes a couple fucking series to go, listen, this guy's raw, whatever. He is really talented. They have a talented team around him.
Yep.
It's inexcusable, that comment, guy. I cannot get behind it. Now, someone had told me recently, and I forget it because I'm not super locked into Bills football pre-Josh Allen. Anthony Lynn was around Tyrod Taylor when he was there. He loves Tyrod Taylor. I think he feels, and you watch Hard Knocks, Tyrod is a really impressive guy. So I can understand where a head coach who's been around this guy as an assistant coach really loves a guy. But this is where the NFL and the meritocracy, I'd say it's the meritocracy at like every position basically for majority of positions. Quarterback is one where sometimes you get situations like this where it's not a meritocracy.
You know, we by the way, the line over 300 yards passing, had the rushing touchdown, missed some throw. I mean, there were throws that he made that to me looked like Oregon, which were the things that I had in my head, missing high multiple times, lacking touch. But they didn't play the Carolina Panthers today. They play them next week. They didn't play the Jets today. They played the Kansas City Chiefs today and had a lead with Kansas City driving. They have to tie the end of the game. Now, this wasn't a toe-to-toe shootout with Mahomes. This didn't look like Browns-Bengals on Thursday night. But clearly you have a chance against a high-end opponent to win with Justin Herbert. That's the end of the discussion. And you and I were on the air back in the day with the greatest hurt guy getting replaced since Wally Pipp. And it was similar, right? Jim Harbaugh loved Alex Smith. The whole team respected Alex Smith. Alex Smith was finally getting his chance, much like Tyrod, who had been in shitty organizations and hadn't really ever gotten a shot. This team around him was really talented, and this was his shot. And he was clearly a team leader, and this was going to be his moment. And to no fault of his own, he couldn't start. Same thing happened with Colin. And Kaepernick came out. What did Kaepernick do? 11 of 17, got sacked 3 times, didn't throw a touchdown. Comes back the next. Remember, was that Thursday Night Football or was the next week against the Bears Thursday Night Football? One of those 2 games was Thursday night. I think the Bears game was Thursday night.
Yeah,
his first.
That was
start.
where Alex got. That's where Alex got. I thought Alex got knocked out against the Bears, or was it the Cardinals?
Well, he played against the Rams the week before. He was 11 of 17 and didn't start. So I think that's when Alex got knocked out. Then his first start. I was with you. I thought Alex got knocked out against Chicago, but in any event, he starts against Chicago.
I would say this, though, Guy. I'm going to push back. I see where you're going with this analogy. Alex had just been a starting quarterback the year before on a team that went to the NFC Championship game. And then, clearly they came back.
What you're about to say is not a pushback. Alex was the harder guy to replace.
Yeah, he was the number 1 overall
pick.
So
I'm saying, my point is, if you can...
Tyrod's nothing.
But no. But what I'm saying is all the things that Alex was in terms of leadership, Tyrod is all those things. That's the point, in Anthony Lynn's mind. But Alex was a much harder guy to replace.
Well, he'd won. The team had won with him.
That's why this comparison absolutely works. It's because Alex was much harder to replace. And they did it without hesitating. Harbaugh loved him. They'd won with him. He'd had way more equity in the organization than Tyrod.
Yeah,
actually, Herbert kind of reminds me of Kaepernick.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy, and I'll give even more pushback. Here's the difference. Kaepernick, when he came in, he was a second-round pick. This guy's the 6th overall pick. It wouldn't have been as crazy, right, if Kaepernick had been a top 6 pick. I think it was really
Kaepernick was not a rookie, though. He wasn't a rookie.
He wasn't a rookie. But this guy's a 6th overall pick. My pushback on he's a rookie. He was a 4-year starter at college. This is not some 1-year wonder. This is not even Kyler Murray, who was a 1-year starter. This is not Mitch Trubisky. 4-year starter at Oregon. 4 fucking years.
But here's what I would...
he's not ready. Who's ever ready?
But that's done. That's done. That argument died today.
Yeah,
I made that argument last week. The argument's dead. I rolled an 18.
Well, the difference, is just the sink or swim when we use that. Sink or swim, for most kids, right, you put floaties, you put them in the shallow end. They can't sink. In pro football, it can get really ugly fast, right? You put them with a bad team. You put them in situations, a really good defense or whatever. This team just is really talented around him. He's got 2 legit wide receivers. He's got a tight end that's really talented, and he's got several running backs, and he's got good players on defense. You would argue for most young quarterbacks, we talked a lot about Joe Burrow earlier, after the Thursday night game. His team isn't close to as talented as what we're watching with this. If there's ever an easier landing spot for a quarterback that gets drafted really high, they usually go to shitty teams.
Right.
This guy went to a really good team, talent-wise. He's in a position to they went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, basically 60 minutes plus another 8, because you know what? When you watch them on the field with the Chiefs, you go, they might not be the Chiefs good because of the Mahomes, but their talent, it's not that much different, right? They got $100 million guys. They got sweet wide receivers.
They got playmakers. They got Eckler. They got,
and
they
I
can chase the quarterback.
I'd say Herbert's part of that. You're fuck, this guy got
Joey
this real
Bosa.
talented
Well,
guy.
to me, you watch him and go, he would be stressful to play defense against, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to. In fact, like I told you before we started, he kind of reminds me of Kaepernick in some ways.
Here would be, I think Kaepernick, obviously the better runner. He's the better thrower, but both are size-wise, throw hard, right? They have
from a size standpoint, to me, he is more of a straight-line runner like Colin, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it is, like Colin, you go, okay, will he develop touch on the ball? That is one of the big – he does miss some of these throws high. He does throw rockets on 8-yard passes. And you go, all right, he's got to reel that in. But clearly he's a playmaker. That is not a debate. He is a playmaker. And
explosive plays
the other thing is what is Tyrod? Where are you going with Tyrod Taylor as your quarterback? What is your true ceiling? Could you win a couple games that come down to the wire where no one's throwing haymakers? Yeah, maybe you could. But at the end of the day in the NFL, you're going to have to win games where people are throwing haymakers. And this guy, I think we saw enough in a big game when he got thrown in the moment to say he can help you make big plays.
Here's where I think the Colin analogy really comes into play, is Alex did not have the ability to really make big plays. Now, I didn't, every time Herbert dropped back to throw it 20 plus yards, I didn't have confidence it was going to get completed, but I knew like I might. And then a couple plays, Keenan or Mike, because he has two sweet wide receivers that have these crazy catching radius, would make these unreal plays. And I just know for a fact.
The Keenan Allen catch over the middle, right over Tyrod's Tyrann Mathieu' fingers was incredible.
Badass. Like Tyrod does not have that play in the bag. Just like Colin immediately started making some plays, Alex did not have the play. That's where I think it's easy. And this is where it's probably unfair. Maybe Anthony Lynn's just saying that. Maybe they discuss it as the week goes on. This is also, listen, I think Dean Spanos has proven to be pretty questionable owner over the years. You get involved with this, I think. You just go, guys.
I don't think you can't disagree completely there. Owner, like, you can't break protocol here. Dean Spanos has no business telling Anthony Lynn what to do.
Yeah, well, it's his
Totally
team,
disagree.
and that he just drafted the guy 6th overall.
Right.
If they go back to Tyrod Taylor, Anthony Lynn's going to get fired.
Well, he might, but that's his grave that he digs. To me, you are.
But if I'm Dean Spanos, I like Anthony Lynn. I don't let him dig his own grave.
But you got to let him be who he is, and if that's who he is, then maybe he's the wrong coach. This is how organizations, to me, get stuck in ruts, is when it gets around like, well, your owner's going to tell you what to do, FYI. Now, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but you cannot have that.
I think everyone would agree with him because I fucking would.
Well, but that's not the point. That is one protocol you cannot break if you want to be a legitimate organization. You cannot tell the coach what to do.
I'm telling this guy, if he goes back to Tyrod Taylor, he would lose a lot of his credibility throughout the league as a guy. Like, he'll never be a head coach.
But credibility aside, like his team might underachieve then. You're right.
Yeah.
But to me, you cannot in the big picture. You might have to replace him anyway. So you cannot, Dean Spanos, handicap your next coaching hire by telling Anthony Lynn what to do in week 3.
Well, if I'm the general manager, I'm throwing my body in front of this. Now, one thing I've heard, and I've heard this from people that know Tom Telesco and the Chargers really well, they had a plan in their head. They did not want to throw this guy to the Wolves. And my pushback has always been, this is not 1996. We're not running pro style. Like, this is, as you see today, they're just running.
Looked okay. He got under center. He looked fine.
Yeah, they're running Oregon type plays too. Like, he's in the gun a lot as well. It's like, guys, what? Just the throw your plans out the window. Just make this guy play. So then in 2 years and 3 years, he's going to have all this experience. My favorite play of the day was when he rolled out to his left, threw to his right across his body. The Honey Badger pick him. No, maybe he was just picked off. And like, those are the type plays you cannot learn on the clipboard what your physical skills, what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. He probably gets away with that against Washington State. He probably gets away with that against Oregon State. He might have even got away with that in practice against the twos. But you realize you're playing the Super Bowl champs. And those are the learning moments. I'm a learn by doing guy. And you cannot learn playing quarterback by not playing. So it's like we'll see. Who knows? Maybe he never comes back, and these are just words. If they ever go back to him, I'll feel bad because I want to like Anthony Lynn as a person. He'll lose all credibility with me out of coach. I'll never be able to look at him the same.
But here's what I keep going back to, like this argument about whether or not Justin's ready to learn. To me, again, I'll repeat. That's the argument is I just watched him, and he's good enough to play NFL quarterback, and clearly the ceiling that you hope he has. He has. And whether you were like me and thought, I wouldn't do it, or you were like you and said, it's time to get him in there. After watching him Sunday, I don't know how two people that had that differing opinion last week could have that differing opinion. I couldn't stand by that opinion today after watching him. So like you've always said, it's like, who cares that you had a guy graded high 4 years ago when he came out? That was based off 3 years of film against some guy that's working as a trainer now at his alma mater. I've got now 4 years of NFL film to judge a player on. Well, now I've got a Sunday for Justin Herbert against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't have to judge him on the Rose Bowl anymore because I watched that game.
Yeah,
and I go, I think all the stuff I thought, the good stuff I thought, might be true. And just to repeat this part again, and his team's good enough around him to handle it.
And clearly, by the information that we have, he had not been the starting quarterback all week. Right? Maybe a little bit, but I think he was thrust into a weird situation. It was not, he had been starting. Schefter announces it on Tuesday. He takes all the reps. It was a bizarre situation, and he handled it. I don't think he can handle it that much better beside not winning the game. Like, yeah, he had some ups and downs, but it's like, shit. Is Tua going to pop like that? I don't know. Like, I mean, that popped, right? That popped. Not quite Burrow popped, but not that far away from Burrow popped. I like him.
It wasn't
I already
Burrow
did.
pops. Yeah, that's true.
I already did. Because Burrow has much more touch, and that's just something. But the only way you can learn touch, guy, is in game situations. I just need him to see it in these games against these good teams that luckily they play.
I don't think we're going to see him learn touch in the next few weeks, but I do think
No,
even
but I just say
without
that's how you coach it out.
For I mean, look, Colin never developed it, right? It just never came for him,
Ever.
really. But in terms of that skill, but even without it, this guy has these other skills that are just, to me, would make life difficult as a defensive coordinator. And on a team that you buy yourself more time, really, if you're this organization and you go with him right now, right? People accept the fact that you might lose a few games that in another year you hope you win.
Here's where we both 100% are on the same page. They are really fun. They become a team I'm watching every week.
Well, believe me, we're on the same page now in just about everything except the Dean Spanos thing. We were not on the same page last week, but it doesn't take much argument after watching this guy. But you're right. We're going to see them a lot, particularly on the West Coast. It's like, please.
I know what I'd do if I was Dean Spanos. I'd walk right down to my head coach and say that kid's starting the rest. I don't give a shit who you tell. I don't care what Telesco thinks.
You can't do it. But you can't do it. But we could disagree about that all day. I just don't think you can cross that line. But I know what I saw. And I know who should be the starting quarterback at the Chargers. And Anthony, we hope you make the right decision.
Please, for your own career.